let's give a warm welcome to Mrs. Charlie Arby.
And Lewis.
And Lewis.
And Lewis.
Special Lewis. So thank you so much for joining me today and sharing a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I'm a lot of things. I started as a marketer, and so I've been in marketing and project management for 7 years now, and I've been a marketing strategist for 3. And along the way, I guess 4 years ago, I got onto Bookstagram. And I've always been a reader. I was the kind of little kid that got her books taken away instead of her toys. That was the worst crime that could be done unto me. And so it kind of just felt like a natural fit. And when I started to get into reading, I started reading a lot of indie. And that kind of led one thing to another, where I started to become friends with a lot of these indie authors. And I realized that there are a lot of bad actors out there selling or even giving free marketing information, but that can be really misleading or doesn't come with the appropriate disclaimers, like don't listen to me, I'm just one guy, stuff like that, right? So or take everything with a grain of salt. So I started to do what I could to answer questions and try to help, because I think indie authors are disadvantaged in a lot of ways to start with, and they have a lot on their plate. And this is what small thing I can try to help contribute with.
Well, we appreciate that. I just loved your readership survey. And if you guys haven't read it, please make sure you go to Charlie's profile. You'll find it in her link in bio. It has some amazing information in there. So we're going to kind of go through that today. So my first question is, what motivated you to create this reader survey?
So it's funny, actually. I was talking to someone who had like a specific problem with their reach, and they couldn't figure it out. And I was like, well, how do readers act on Instagram? Publishing industry is huge, so surely there's some audience data out there, because like the heart of good, at least corporate marketing, right, is data. So what do we know for sure? What is going to get rid of variables, and who is the audience? Because knowing who you're talking to is the first and most important thing that you can do when you build out marketing strategy or plans or any little bit of it, right? You put the audience at the center, and you're kind of always going to come out ahead of people who aren't, which is a lot of people. You'll see companies do it even, and it's why they can't sell their product. So long story short, I'm on the internet digging for reader data. I am emailing companies and universities, and like nobody has anything, or if they do, they're keeping it very close to their chest. So I said, all right, I've got 46,000 followers. I tried it once before with a similar goal, didn't get the reach I wanted, and since my account had grown, I decided to try again. And it was really just to try and hone in on how do readers use Instagram specifically, because that's the platform that I'm the most comfortable with, and how can we use that information to make more informed decisions and marketing plans.
Awesome. So could you give a little bit, I would say, could you give who the audience is of readers who may have?
Oh, sure. So my 46K is exclusively women. Women aged like 18 to 45 is like my couple of main age brackets, and they're primarily romance readers, and that's contemporary, sports, fantasy, sci-fi, monster, whatever, right? But that's my primary audience. Now 15 almost 1,600 people took the survey, and I saw where it was being shared. I was trying to trace it basically to see if it was getting into other communities, and it definitely was. What I can't say, because I didn't include it as a question, and I will, you live and you learn. Next year's iteration will have this question, but this year I don't know how far it went into other genre communities. So I just like to kind of put that up front, where like the more aligned you are with my audience, I think the more directly applicable the knowledge will be. Every degree of separation you get from that, the more you're going to have to kind of assume what your audience might be doing a little differently.
Absolutely. Very nuanced. And I think you kind of went into my question a little bit. How many responses did you receive for this survey? And was there any surprise facts that you learned about this user behavior?
Yeah, so I had a lofty goal, because in good data, right, especially in polling, which is very top of mind right now for a lot of Americans, you want to have a confidence interval and a margin of error. So, like you'll see on the news right now, even they're saying they're polling within the margin of error. So, these are important things to keep in mind. We achieved 1,580 responses, which gives us a 95% confidence interval with a 3% margin of error for a population of up to 20 million people. So there's not, we would have had to have, I think, another 1,200 responses to bump it up to like 99% confidence with that 3% margin of error. But nothing is within the margin of error in the answers or even really close. So we can proceed with that data with confidence around the genre of people, right, that we're sure took it. As for something that surprised me, I don't know if this surprised me so much, but to call it like a totally made up term, the trust differential, right? It used to be that companies set the tone, right? You trusted Lucky Strike
Yes.
cigarettes because they said that they were the best cigarette, right? And we've seen that shift over the years where now you want a brand that looks like you, that sounds like you up through the early 2000s. You want to buy a book from an author that seems like you're kind of buying into that lifestyle. And most recently, we've seen lifestyle marketing kind of fall out in favor of influencer marketing, which is sort of like a side aspect of that. But even that now is shifting, right? And what we want to see is our friends recommending the product. We want to see either someone we know or that we feel like we know, or a huge number of people, right? You're on Amazon, 2 products have 5 stars. You're going to buy the one with 20,000 reviews, not the one with 10,000 reviews. So it's kind of like, and I feel like the data really proved that out, especially when you dig into like where they get their recommendations and how they're deciding whether or not to add a book to their TBR or to read it. It's heavily, heavily dependent on word of mouth still. And I'm going to take a sec to dig into that a little bit, because I feel like a lot of indie authors stress themselves out so bad about their social media presence. And while I'm here to teach you how to do it if you want to, I just want to say, like, the book comes first. The book will always come first. Social media cannot replace that. And word of mouth marketing is still winning in publishing. So it's getting that book into readers' hands, yes. But they have to like the book and recommend it to their friends. And that's how you see that, catch fire.
Absolutely. So we're going to jump into
So
the next question.
easy, right?
We'll kind of go back to that in a little bit, but I noticed in the readership survey that some of the responses actually preferred static images over reels, with the majority of the responses that really
Yeah.
have it all, which is kind of the complete opposite of what Meta tells us. Can you
Yeah.
kind of speak that a little bit?
So this is nuanced. And I think that sometimes people say they have a preference, but really what we can see from that is like, I think, right? This is my opinion now. We're delving from the facts and into my analysis and what I think people are doing, right? Is that I think Bookstagram mostly uses the home feed. And the home feed is always going to be a mix, right? So they're not going over to the Reels tab because the people who liked Reels the most were also leaving other comments talking about what they prefer to see in Reels, that they like Reels best, that when they're in the Reels tab, XYZ happens, you know what I mean? So I think that there's just a difference of how they're using the app. And I would assume, especially with this age bracket, that their video content, they might be relying more on TikTok for. So that's that angle of it. The second of 3 angles here, I think, is that traditionally on Bookstagram, static posts are reviews. So it's a photo of a book with a review in the caption, or it's, a graphically designed review, or like a little trope map, whatever. But it's content that gets down to the nitty gritty of the book. Whereas, especially a year ago, like the Reels tab or any reel made about books had a much higher percentage of likelihood of being like lip syncing as a book character, right? Or a joke about a trend having to do with a specific popular book. The Reels content made by end users and consumers like me centered around fandom and jokes and book lifestyle and stuff like that. So I think that the people who are taking this may have been indicating a preference for review content, because these are not, we're book
Yeah.
people, right? And I think the vast majority of book people are not dancing
Yes.
on Instagram reels, right? So it's also kind of, you got to keep that personality in mind. Who is this audience? Like, who am I thinking of, and what's relatable to them?
Mhm.
Um, and the third thing I forgot, so it couldn't have been that important.
No worries.
Talked myself out of it.
No worries, no worries. I think the next section, and you kind of talked about that a little bit, I found pretty interesting, is bookstagram behavior. Some of the results also surprised me when we talked about your poll and how
Yeah.
much the followers of bookstagrammers, influencers, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna, Kamala, I'm doubling back to the previous question. So the third thing was that Meta's still
Yeah.
right. Like, it does not matter what I say. It does not matter what readers report they are doing. Meta is still right, right? They know they're at. So, and I have a whole other post on my Substack about like deciding what you want your posts to do. Do you want new followers? Do you want better engagement? Like, what are you trying to do with your posts? And that can dictate a lot of things, not the least of which being the post vehicle, the type, right, that you choose. And Reels, time and again, there's no arguing with it. Get in front of more new eyeballs. You're going to have more non-follower reach with a reel, no matter what. So sorry, that was like the most important thing to add on there, right? It's yes and right, but to come back to the type of people, I think the question you're referencing is like lurkers versus bookstagrammers, right? Yeah. So the question I asked was, do you run a bookstagram or do you lurk from a personal account? And the reason I asked is because I see a lot of indie authors struggling to find street team members, to find ARC readers and stuff like that. But a lot of times the requirements that we create for those readers are half put the review on Amazon, Goodreads, etc., and half post it. I want to see it in your story. I want to see it on your feed. And if you don't run a bookstagram, that might not be comfortable for you. And so we are self-selecting the audiences for those opportunities when we're trying to get books in hands, right? And so what had happened was about 53% of respondents said that they lurk from a personal account, which that did surprise me. That was more than I anticipated, especially for this survey, right? Because you would also think of a lurker as being less engaged, less likely to click a link to a post about a survey from some bookstagrammer, right? But so we have 53% are running from a personal account, 40% are running a dedicated bookstagram, and then a final like 6-ish%, 7, are running some sort of amalgamation. They're an artist, right? Or, you know, they're a cover designer, so they're reading, they're doing both. But those are also people who, or they lurk, but from a business account, right? Like something like that. Somebody on the fringes who still would not be willing to post a book that they received on their story or on their feed, and who are self-selecting out of ARC opportunities and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely an interesting result there.
That one was definitely interesting, the lurkers, and we kind of noticed some of that data in our own when I was doing insights, that we have a lot of their personal accounts. So I totally understand that feedback. But I want to hop question, how I did find it interesting that most readers don't follow authors until they've actually read their book, which I think is important, especially when authors are asking for reviews from readers. Can you kind of elaborate on that data as well?
Yeah, I think that you know, there's a certain like mental divorce that needs to happen between your post success, your account engagement, and your following, and your book getting Kindle Unlimited read pages read and orders for paperbacks and reviews, right? They're really, you're using one to try and drive the other. So they're not always going to be commensurate with one another, right? And you know, I think to look at I'm so sorry. Could we go back to the can you pull me back into the
Yeah.
center here?
How about authors that readers that don't follow authors unless
Thank
they
you.
book?
Sorry, there's so much and I get so jazzed that I take myself off on a tangent here. So they might see you and they might like your post, they might bookmark it, right, save it, they might decide to read it, they might order it right that second. But I think a lot of people, especially in this economy, both the financial economy but also the economy of content, where everything is so available to them, they want to know it's good before they invest, right? Which is why, you know, having multiple places for people to buy the book, or having it in Kindle or Kobo, or like, you know, whatever nook, some place where they can kind of access, or having a sample available, right? Whatever it is that you can do to kind of like prove your value there, that's going to get them to read the book. That still might not get them to follow you, right? So you could be getting the higher achievement and not getting the lesser follow, which that's my order of importance, right? But you could be getting one and not the other. So again, it kind of ties back to what your goals are, right? Like if you want to increase followership, you need to be a content creator in a lot of ways. You need to be providing additional and separate value. They're going to come back and follow you for that value after they've read your book, if they really loved the book, right? And I do this myself, even in this weird position I straddle, half in, you know, the marketing and half in the reading and half in the art, right? It's too many halves, but I'm not sure I want to dedicate that space in my feed. And that's how they think of it too, in my opinion, right? Is they need to be sure of that value. And then another non-zero thing is that people don't want
Yeah.
spoilers, right? And that was an added nuance that they added in too, where it's like they may be super hyped. They might be like ready to get to your book tomorrow. They called the library. It has it, right? They're ready to go. But they don't want to get spoiled. So they're going to nope out of there like really quickly. And so that's a good reason too, to just quickly bring up. And I think that we have a question that touches on it later, but making sure that your page is spoiler free, can be really helpful to kind of like avoiding that situation.
Absolutely. So I think with book talk and bookstagrammers that it's really important to reiterate how their recommendations drive readers, which can ultimately drive sales. Can you kind of give a good example of that you've seen in your own experience?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's a cautionary tale in some ways, right? It's something magical that happens sometimes. I don't think it's something that you can put on your to-do list. I do think it's something you can put on your wish list, your manifestation list, your prayer list, whatever, right? Like we can hope for that to happen someday, but you can't manufacture that moment, right? It does happen. And I think there are a lot of indie authors who can attest to the fact that like and I've seen it, I've been a part of it, right? Where an account of any size, and I want to be so clear about that, you do not need a giant account. What you need is a super fan. And that super fan could have 200 followers and they could have 200,000 followers. But you connect with that one reader who's got the gift of gab and who's going to go out there and tell all their friends and beg everybody to read it. It can make a huge difference. That person doesn't even necessarily have to have social media though, right? So it's about trying to find your people, trying to find your audience, and laser focusing in on those people who you've already kind of like sift through, right, to with your content to reach. You're more likely to find those people who are becoming like your brand evangelicals, basically, right? To use like the corporate term, these are the people who are going to run around and tell everybody they know to read your book. And yeah, that can make a huge difference. It sometimes can make a huge temporary difference, but it can also set a huge stage for later. So again, I don't think that's something you can plan necessarily. But if we have bookstagrammers in the chat, right, like that is the power you hold. So when you find an indie and you love it and you put in the time and the effort and the energy into promoting this person's book, you can make a huge difference for that person, and you never know when it's going to happen. So
And usually, and that's free, guys. Like that, it's free to promote on your lives with your friends.
it's true.
It's free. Like help an indie author today. Like
Yeah.
just you know,
Yep.
share their book, like their book, share their content. Like it's so
Yeah.
easy.
Yes.
So my next question is, can you break down the polar audience of readers, like the favorite kind of content
Yes.
authors, and was any of that data surprising?
Yeah, to me, it was not surprising, but again, I straddle this really unique position where, like, I'm friends with a lot of authors. I'm in marketing. I can't turn that part of my brain off, and I'm a reader, right? So, but I think it was validating for a lot of authors, is what I heard, who've already interacted with the survey. So I broke it down into 6 content types, just for ease of getting questions answered, basically, in a survey, right? The first and most, I told them to choose 3 also, I should say. So this can kind of narrow the results down. The most impactful post, as reported by these survey takers, is art.
Mhm.
They love, and I don't know how many indie authors I know who can attest to the fact that, and probably traditionally published authors too, who don't even know about the fan art that's out there, that's done a lot of convincing on their behalf, right? That people will see art and be like, I gotta read it. Like,
Mhm.
there's something about getting that visual touch, especially if you've got 2 hot characters, right? Or 1 crazy creature, like whatever you got that, like, brings it to the table, getting that made by a human artist, in the community, especially. There's a huge amount of bookish artists. There's a whole compendium. Maybe somebody can find a link for the bookish artist compendium, who work together to kind of make sure they're all human. We're all like co-vetted with each other and stuff like that. It's an amazing group of people. Anyway, art is like, it's the billboard. It's the packaging on the beer that is prettier than the one next to it, so you bought it. It's the rosé with the sparkles, right? Instead of the rosé without the sparkles. It's the iPhone case that has your favorite color on it. It's everything. It's basically, it's like your cover, right? Covers maybe don't even have the same reaction of most of the time, right? Unless you're a 3-letter author, right? But art does so much talking for you that I cannot recommend commissioning some art for your book enough. The second, I'm gonna try it. I'm sorry, I'm yapping.
No, you're
The second content type, it is the glitter. Thank you, Pages of Rage. Author stuff is the second category, and I use that term, and my friends are always like, "You need to tell people what that means," right? Author stuff is like, see, picture yourself right now, ye listener. You're 10 years old. You've just finished your favorite book. What would you do to sit down with the author of your favorite book and dig into their brain and understand, well, what did you eat for breakfast this morning? What is your dog named? Is it like a reference to something? What are you watching on TV right now? Like, what inspired you to write this? What other books did you like that I might like? You know what I mean? This is author stuff. This is author content. What's your work in progress, right? What can you share with us about it? What are your writing habits like? What does your little writing cave look like? It just letting people into that side of you, because I think a lot of authors forget that they do have, it doesn't matter if you're not even published yet. You're writing, you're an author.
that's
You have the mystique,
mhm.
right? People, a huge amount of readers probably want to be writers. So you've got what they want, and I think they really like to see it. The third kind is book updates. I think just kind of standard upcoming important dates. They want to be aware of what's going on. They want to know when the sequel is coming out. They want to know if you're done with it yet, right? But I do want to caveat that one, that they said it can be really, really repetitive. So be careful with your countdowns and your reminders and stuff like that. Smudge, this person knows my cat's name. I do have a cat named Smudge. Bonus points for you. Very good. Smudge is locked out because he's a menace. Um, yeah, book updates, that's standard. I think we should all know what that means. Just try and keep it like succinct, maybe add some additional value to it so that it doesn't feel like repetitive for people, because it can kind of like tick people off. The third type is bookstagram content. So post about your book, but as though you were a bookstagrammer. We need to be clear and say we're the author. We cannot pretend that we are a fan of our own book and posting content for it. But bookstagram, so like aesthetic posts, reels with trends or jokes and things like that, that kind of content. The second to last in the lineup here is personal posts. I myself don't do it very much. They People don't follow me because of my lifestyle. They want my book recs, right? Or they want my marketing advice. Some of them want to see my art, almost nobody wants to see on my feed all the time what I did that weekend, right? This is not ye old Instagram where we're posting our dinner every night. So they like it and they want to get to know you, but I personally think that that's the story is the best place for that, where you can share what you're up to even every day, right? But give them that, stick that up in the story where they can skip through it and they're already in that mode of seeing what people are up for. And then finally, the last thing on there was flat lays, which, if you don't know what that is, it's basically where you put everything you've ever bought from Hobby Lobby on a table
And
and put the book down on it, and take a picture. And they are so aesthetic and beautiful, and I love them. But if they're not adding a lot of additional value, I think a lot of the time, and they were huge for so long that I think we've just kind of come down on them for a little while. They'll probably be back. That's how it works, right? But as of right now, that's the lowest on the ladder.
no worries. I'm gonna skip one question and kind of jump into one particular touchy subject that we've talked about before.
Oh,
Uh, which is AI, generative AI, to be specific.
yeah.
How nuanced the answers were in the survey. Can you kind of expand on that? And do you think that we'll see in the future, if you do a survey, those numbers change in the future
Yeah.
because such AI is already integrated in our daily lives?
Yeah, yeah, I would say so for sure. So the nuance in the responses, and I read it one way and somebody read it another way. And that is the thing about data, right? It can be read multiple ways. And I put on my survey that I literally made my husband, who is not as anti-AI as I am, like read what I wrote and make sure that it was at least moderately
Totally.
in the middle, right? Like trying to just objectively deliver the facts of what people reported, because my personal opinion is so strong. So I'm going to start with the facts and then I'm going to have some words. But basically, like 30% of respondents, and I think this is the most important thing from the objective data, 30% of respondents say that if they see you using generative AI, they will not consider reading your book. Whether it looks like it was an accident or not, they will not consider reading your book. I don't know a company on earth that is willing to alienate 30% of their potential customers, um, because it's easier or cheaper, right? That is, to me, from a business perspective, as a marketing strategist for like a Fortune 50 company, like that's the biggest thing to take away, right? And you'll see it on threads, people saying, if I see you posting AI art, I'm going to assume AI wrote your book.
That's
Is
right.
that kind of dramatic? Possibly, right? Like, should we be assuming that? I don't know. And I think that that is coming from people who feel as strongly as I do. But to get into the nuance a little bit of the actual data, another 35% said that it does depend on if it looks purposeful, right? Because I think a lot of people are still in the space where they're trying to educate. They want to make sure that you understand that it's harmful, not just to the artists in our community, but eventually it's going to be harmful for the writers in our community too. It's not going to stop with Midjourney making little drawings instead, right? It's coming for Hollywood, it's coming for actors, it's coming for narrators for our audiobooks. I mean, our creative industry is at risk, and that's their perspective. That's my perspective, that's their perspective, right? So again, I think that they are taking it a little bit more nuanced, because they want to see people like come over to their side, right? So they'll have a conversation with you. They might DM you and say, like, do you understand that this is AI? Do you know why that's bad, etc. 23.5% of these people did say they don't know enough about it to make a judgment call. I think that's fair, right? That's 25% of people who are just like, honestly, I'm not really sure what's going on with all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably not a creative. They're probably not a writer, an artist of any kind. So they're just like, I'm not touching this. I don't know. I'm not making any decisions based off of it. That's totally fair. And then 11.3% did say that they don't care at all if you use AI. So they feel completely neutral to positive, somewhere in that spectrum. So, one way to look at that data is that 65% of respondents are, if it's purposeful AI, right? are not going to read your book. So I would combine that with, and these studies are really easy to find, but consumers are starting to view AI as cheap, as cutting corners, as, you know, somebody doing something fake or false or inauthentic. HR managers are starting to talk about how they don't want to interview candidates with AI profile pictures on LinkedIn. It's come in such a weird way that I think right now it's just a sticky situation that is best left untouched. Even if you're unsure, just remember that, you know, in a survey like this, and hopefully next year we get more response from more walks of life and genres of readers, you're going to alienate them from wanting to read your book, and I think that's a poor business decision.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to go into the last two questions because I know we've hit our 30-minute mark.
Yep, sorry.
Oh, you're fine. You're totally fine. Turn-offs, which we kind of discussed a little bit. Some of the responses I expected, but some of them I think should be shared and how strongly this particular group felt about certain actions.
Yeah, so this one was interesting because I think that when you there's a lot that you're gonna do that's gonna turn off a reader that you can't do anything about.
Yeah.
Right. One of the things they complained about was discourse or politics. You gotta do what you gotta do,
Yeah.
right? And standing up for what you believe in and alienating those readers, maybe good,
Right.
right? Maybe good. You know, so some of it was, and this was an open-ended response, so I had to comb through almost 1,600 responses and pull out keywords by hand. I did not use Copilot to do it for me, okay? And analyze what people were saying and put it into buckets. So we have, I'm going to say the first thing that they really hate is false advertising. And I think that that's probably a gimme, right? But just be very careful that what you're saying is accurate, and not just because, you know, you think it's what they want to hear, or you think you might encapsulate that trope a little bit if you squint, or, you know, if it wouldn't go in your blurb,
Yes.
when you're querying, right, or something like that, like don't put it anywhere else. You want to be as accurate as humanly possible. They a lot of them were citing, like, sorry, the hair, a lot of them were citing like a very specific author and what she had done, and it was like, that was like 2 years ago, and everybody was still like, this girl did this and I hated it. So keep that in mind. Repetition, I touched on that a little bit. They just don't like when you post the same thing over and over again. I don't think anybody would like that from any kind of account anywhere on the internet. So it's probably pretty straightforward. Just keep an eye on it. Spoilers, again, just try not to, I mean, it's not too bad to hop on Canva and make a couple slides that go before it, right? If it's a really hypercritical spoiler, if you want to show part of it on the front screen, I see a lot of even like not safe for work artists, they'll blur out the bits, right, that spoil what's going on, right? So like, you can get creative with it, but like, you know, do what you got to do. Don't spoil your readers if you can help it. Unreadable fonts had me gagged. That's so funny. It's so true though. I can't tell you how many posts I see where I'm like, oh, I wish I could read that. Like, I don't know what that says, you know? And so Canva, right, which is free, has they have little mini graphic design classes on there. Or you can Google like font pairings, or like what fonts should I use? What makes a font legible? Like stuff like that. You know what I mean? So just because you know what it says and that cursive font is like real pretty, it's not good for paragraphs.
Right.
Right? It's okay for titles. It's okay for 6 words, right? Max, right? That's totally arbitrary number, but if you've got a chunk, just remember the way books are printed. Books are not printed in, you know, fancy fonts. You get one letter or maybe the first word in a chapter, and then everything else is in a very normal serif or sans serif font. And then there's like kind of a second bucket of like reader turnoffs. And again, this is just good behavior. I kind of doubt anybody in this chat right now would participate in this, but complaining. This is what your author Discord or your author group chat or your IRL besties, that's what you're for. That's what they're for. If something bad happens to you and you need to share it. That is okay. It is okay to be human. And a lot of the time, like I myself went on a very super mega fun mental health journey this last year, and I shared that, but I didn't share it from like a complainy, like, woe is me angle. I was being transparent. I was giving my learnings to my audience, like, because I guarantee I'm not the only anxious, I don't know if I can swear it, the only anxious gal on Bookstagram, right? So it's different. So you can share what's going on in your life, and you can share when you have a bad day or what happens. But I think if it gets super repetitive, or you're constantly complaining about sales or other things that really readers should not be seeing, it can be a really big turnoff. So we want to be super careful with that. When in doubt, go to the group chat. Go to your author Discord, go to your author spaces, and vent. They will understand better than any of the readers would anyway. You know what I mean? And then the last, I'm going to lump the last ones together: shame, disrespect, and rudeness. They do not like to see you beefing. A lot of the specifics they included were like making fun of other authors, or disparaging other genres, or talking crap about a reader, right? Which, like, that can be very tempting. All of us can, especially on threads, where everything is discourse and you want to throw up your hot take because you know you're going to get attention, but you're not going to get people reading your books. Because even if you get a ton of people scrapping with you in your comments, there are readers screenshotting that and putting that in group chats and going, look at this poorly behaved individual. You know what I mean? So you're a public figure now. You know what I mean? Like, it's, in some ways you should kind of be acting like you're running for office. That's not fun. That's not, like, ideal, right? But when it comes to anything that could create drama, you just want to put it away, right? Where
The book.
Yeah. Yeah, and these are your peers. You know what I mean? Like, what happens if you talk crap and then you are on a panel in a couple years, sat next to that person? You know, this would be awkward. So just group chat. Go to your group chat. Do not do this here.
So the last question, well, the next to last question was, there was one word that you mentioned that you read twice in the readership survey.
Yes.
Can you share that word and how authors can take that word and make it into like a positive attribution to their social strategy?
So I think you mean authenticity.
Yes.
Okay. Good. I'm getting quizzed on my own stuff. So, authenticity. And we touched on this a little bit, right? Earlier when I was talking about this kind of like evolution of marketing and what people want to hear. They want you to be you. And I have specifically talked with a couple of indie authors and been like, girl, you're a freak. Let that flag fly. Like, be weird. Like, be funny. Like, don't take it seriously. Like, just have fun and let them see who you are. Because who you are is also part of who your book is, right? And it's going to be a part of that kind of content offering that you're delivering. And if you want people to follow your socials, you need to be delivering beyond the book, right? And that's where you can just be yourself. And you're going to have a lot more fun posting if you're not trying to ape what other people are doing, or create an aesthetic that's not actually yours, or, it could be a space for you to express yourself creatively as the author of these books that you are marketing. You know what I mean? It's all connected, but they want to see you. And the more like a person you act instead of like a business or a company, the more they're going to connect with you, and you're going to have like more authentic connections with everybody. Authenticity sells in a huge way. So,
and I hope you guys are taking notes, because we're going to recap a lot of these things that Charlie has mentioned. So make sure that you're writing it down. But we're going to jump into the Q&A portion of this particular conversation. And it looks like we have quite a bit that people, while we were talking, it looks like we have like 8. I don't know all of them, but we'll definitely touch on a few. It looks like author Caceres, or author N Caceres, says, going back to art, many of us can only afford 1 or 2 pieces of art per book. Do you have any ideas to make those 1 or 2 pieces stretch throughout and not feel repetitive?
Yeah. So the first thing you need to do is speak with your artist. Because a lot of artists charge like a PR. There's like tiers. Like, how if you want commercial licensing and exclusive licensing, there's a smaller tier, right? That usually they'll charge Some of them for posting at all, because that is marketing, right? And some of them will want to increase that or charge for you to manipulate it for social media, right? So the first thing you do is you speak to your artist and you make sure that they're ahead of the commission. If this is your plan, be like, FYI, I would really like to make trope maps with the character art in the background. I would like to pull them out and off of things and, you know, stick them in other places. Like, I won't sell it, but I do want to manipulate it for social media. Is that okay with you? Once you have your artist's blessing, because if you don't, you're going to get into a lot of trouble. It'd be like if I took a chapter out of your book and I started using it for things, you'd come for me, right? So once you have your artist's permission, and you've paid any fees if applicable, which I know if we have budget, it's hard, right? We got to do things right. You can then take that and create, like I just said, pull it apart, stick it on things, right? If you've got your cover reveal and you had art first, stick your characters out next to it, right? You can use the Canva like background remover to pop them on all kinds of things, right? You can put them. Vanessa Renassin, I think I'm pronouncing her name correctly, was like one of the first ones I saw do like a really successful, like, characters in the middle, tropes around them. It was just the art, and she put the tropes around them with little arrows, and it like blew up, right? So like, you know, go check out other authors, right? Or like hop into I always say, like, do research. Go into the Reels tab or go into the Explore tab and type in like book review or like new book and just see what's doing well and see how you can stick your characters in that, and that will help.
Absolutely. I'm going to do one more and then we're going to go into the giveaway section. I from Honey and Coco, that they have such a cute book about two dogs. And I think her question is, as we build brand awareness for our books, do people want to know the behind the scenes, who the authors are, etc., or just info on our books? And I think we talked about that a little bit about like author authenticity and,
We
you know, the data.
did. Yeah, and I mean, I'm trying to think. Think of the opposite, right? This might sound counterintuitive, but hang with me here. Do you know of any influencers or bookstagrammers who then wrote a book? The reason they wrote a book and the reason that book sells, at least at first, right, is because of who they are. It is because of the relationship that they built with their following that there's kind of this built-in like brand loyalty. Now, flip that, right? You are putting a book out there. You have to start from scratch. You're doing both at the same time, but you can create this kind of like relationship, but you can only do that if you give a piece of yourself. So if you are authentic and you show them who you are and what you're up to, again, stories is a great place, like great place for this. I would post a story if I had my crap together. I'd post stories every day, what I'm up to, the view, right? My working desk, right? Wit, whatever. And that is what begins to build those connections with people. Build a table with comfy chairs that fit all. Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of authors want to build communities, right, around their books. So, you know, the comment sections are another place where you should really be dedicated to answering people, right? Meta says within 24 hours, you should answer every comment you get. A clock starts at 24 hours. That can be a little extreme for some people, but you know, once you post, stick around, have a conversation.
I mean, we do that. I mean, if someone has a complaint or a comment, we try to respond within 20.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not impossible, but it's definitely it's time
yeah,
consuming. But
it
that
is.
trust and authenticity, like you said, it's worth it. The value
Yeah.
of itself. So the last part is our giveaway. This portion, that's why we asked you to take notes during the live because we kind of reiterate some of those questions at the end during the giveaway. So my first question is, and you can kind of go round up if you need to. How many responses did Charlie receive for this readership survey? And the first person to answer it will win a nice little prize that I will mail you. So just go ahead and put it in the comments.
Oh my God,
Oh,
that's so specific.
very
Oh my God, they were
they're
listening. Wait, but I see a
listening.
specific. Somebody got really close. Oh, hey, Brandy. Oh my God, everyone's here. Hello, guys.
I see Amethyst Make. She was my first one, I believe. So
Oh, this is so hard. Yes, no, that is yep, she was the first.
So Amethyst Meg send IngramSpark's book a direct message with your full name and your full address, and I'll send you a goodie next week.
Oh.
Okay, second question.
Okay, Maria, take that back.
We have three more questions, so we're gonna have multiple winners here today, guys. What's the genre focus for the readership survey? And Charlie said in the beginning, I don't know if you guys were on the live, but do you remember the specific genre that Charlie said?
Who follows Charlie?
Follows Charlie.
Yep. Very good.
Yes.
Wow. It's crazy.
Is it
crazy that people are listening to me talk? Oh my God.
Crochet Noir, I think is what is on my end. Send me a DM with your full contact info and I'll send you a nice little token of our appreciation. The next question, what was one word that Charlie said at the end that we talked about for positive attribution? We talked about it here at the end, what we need to see from authors.
Yes. Very good.
Yes. I'm going to give it
also
good girl read since she won previously, Crochet Noir. So good girl read.
Oh, the first one I have was author H. Levin. Good girl. I'm so sorry, girl. I know. I hate to take it away from you.
Author H, send me your contact info.
Y'all did come with your listening ears. Damn. Oh, darn. Sorry.
That's okay. So my last question is, name at least one of the previous episode topic and or speakers. Watch our Ask the Expert or Ask the Self-Published Expert series. This is like our 7th or 8th episode. We've had quite a few of these. So if you could name a particular topic or a speaker, I will a nice little prize.
Everyone's like,
Charlie, here for you.
AI? Was it AI one of them?
No.
Good guess.
Darren Sale. Yes, Shaniqua. Awesome. Thank you so much. Yes, and we did Alicia Callahan as one of our guests. Yes, Lewis. Yes. Shaniqua, send me your information. And I'll make sure you guys all send your full name, your full address, because if not, they'll ship it back and it'll take even longer for me to reach out to you. But everyone, give a warm round of applause to Charlie. Hearts, hand claps. She was absolutely amazing. Charlie, please tell our audience where they can find you if they have any questions.
Yeah.
How can they reach you?
Yeah. So, before everyone leaves, please, my Substack is an open Q&A. I exist to combat the people who are trying to sell you bad advice. I cannot promise my advice is going to be better, but it's free and it comes with a grain of salt, right? So go find my Substack. You can find it Charlie's Marketing Rex or Charlie's Book Rex. Both will link you into it, right? Go in there. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments of the most recent post. I have a ton of posts in there on all kinds of things, and I answer basically every time I've got like 5 or 6 questions to answer. And I'm currently working on a 3-month launch plan. So 3 months backwards from launch day, how do you set up your marketing and what do you do? It is currently 20 typed pages, single spaced, size 11 font. So it's going to be a behemoth, but we've got good things coming. Thank you to everybody recommending the Substack in the comments. There's the free tier is everything. Okay. The paid tier does get some extra goodies every once in a while, but free. Okay. And then also Charlie's Book Rex here on Instagram. So yeah, I'm branded all the way through. You just type in Charlie's Book Rex, you're gonna find it.
Yeah. Charlie's Book Rex. And again, Charlie, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it. I know we've been going back on, but I am so glad you were able to make it tonight.
Yeah.
And this was absolutely amazing. Again, if you have not subscribed to our Substack, if you've not read this readership survey, please go do it. SAP. And in our final words. It's your story. Share it with the world. And you guys have an amazing weekend. Thank you guys so
Thank
much. Have a good night.
you guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.